Everybody, welcome back
Yeah.
to Horror Movie Yearbook.
We're here.
I am Tim.
I'm Willie.
It's been a couple months since Scream 6.
It's been a while, yeah.
We have
Crazy.
both seen that movie multiple times since then, right?
I think I've seen it twice now. No, 3 times.
You've seen it 3 times? Did you watch it, like, at home?
I saw it in the theater again
Okay.
because Nick wasn't able to make it to our first, when we went and saw it. And he wanted to go see it, and so I was like, I'll go with you. Yeah. Because I always like watching them when I know the outcome of the movies.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch them a second time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I had Paramount Plus for a completely unrelated reason. I don't remember why.
Mm-hmm.
It was for something else. And it popped up during like my last day or two of having the subscription.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll watch it again.
Yep.
Yep. And that was a phone viewing. I was watching it on my phone or whatever.
Yeah.
I've seen it twice at this point. So it's
I'll say this. I kind of stand by where I'm at with it on our, when everybody go, if you haven't listened to that one, and you maybe have just checked out Scream 6, I thought we did a good job on that, especially after one viewing, like going pretty deep in depth into it.
Yeah.
That's out now. It's been out for a couple months. It's on our YouTube channel as well. If you want to throw it on in the background while you do stuff.
Absolutely.
On the TV, but there's no video, but whatever,
we do it. So, I mean,
yeah, I do it too. Yeah. I kind of, I like to throw podcasts on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think we did a good job, and I watched it again. I'm like, I think I was pretty much where I am on that one. It's an incredibly entertaining movie, though. Still, like,
yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I softened a little bit on some of the stuff in the third act. Like the first time around, I was kind of like, what? I mean, there's still elements of it where I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But the second time around, I was like, I think just knowing where I was headed. I appreciated some aspects of the reveal and stuff more than I did the first time around. I still think it is still to me like the first Scream movie, and I mean this in both a real positive way and a negative way too. It is the first Scream movie in the franchise to me that feels like a slasher sequel.
Yep.
That really feels like a slasher sequel. In all the good ways and all the probably not great ways.
Yep.
It definitely feels it feels like a part 6.
And a lot of that feels intentional too.
I think a lot of it is.
Yep.
And it could be us giving him too much credit, but I really do think it is intentional.
Yeah.
I think there's an audacity to this movie.
Yeah.
And like a crazy loudness to it that is like, well, we're making part 6 and we're going to put 6 in the title, so we're really going for it. Yeah. So
a couple of housekeeping things to get out of the way, and then we're going to jump into Malignant here. We have not been as active on social media the last couple months. Been a little busy.
Haven't been as active at all. So.
Yes.
Oh, you've been very active.
Yeah.
Just
tied up in newborn stuff. But I do plan on. I will log back in here now that we're back up and running. So apologies if you have tweeted at us or got at us on Instagram or emailed us, hit us up on Facebook, whatever, YouTube. I have not seen it because I just have been way out to lunch on a lot of it. But now that we're back up and running a little bit, at HM Yearbook on Twitter, Horror Movie Yearbook on Instagram, Horror Movie Yearbook on Facebook, Horror Movie Yearbook on YouTube, Horror Movie Yearbook at gmail.com. Try to be a little bit better out in the future, but wanted to start off with that. Just a heads up to the listeners. We're still thinking about you. Yes.
I could have kept it alive.
We're not ignoring.
I could have kept it alive, but I was like, oh. I didn't, actually. I'll be honest, I feel even worse because I didn't even think about it. I was just like, all right, we're taking a hiatus. So
Yep. That's kind of how I was, too.
Yeah, I was like, it is what it is. It's all good.
The Game Nerds, I know that they're working around. They have a couple new fathers over there as well.
Yes.
And so congratulations to them. I don't know if I've congratulated John. I know I've congratulated on I have.
There are babies everywhere.
It's a baby factory.
It's insanity.
But I will say this. I was recently on an episode. So if you, it was my first episode back. We did a remote recording with Gojo and Alex over the Game Nerds, who Alex has been on our podcast as well, the founder, as many of you know him as. Talk a little bit about Zelda, which I have not played since talking about it a couple weeks ago because I just...
What Zelda is this?
This is the newest one, Tears of the Kingdom, which is amazing. It's
out.
It's out, and it's honestly probably going to be the game of the year, I think.
Is it better than Breath of the Wild?
Yep. Yeah, and
wow.
And that's not a knock against the Breath of the Wild, because I think Breath of the Wild is amazing too. I love this one too. The only thing with this one is, and I talked a little bit about it on the Game Nerds podcast too, is I just haven't like, do you remember when I got carpal tunnel at work for Breath of the Wild? Because I was playing it so much, I had to go buy the wristband at lunch because I couldn't do my job. Incredible. I haven't, like, and some of it is other things, but I just haven't been as drawn because it's overwhelmingly, like, the amount of stuff you can do in Tears of the Kingdom to start, it's like overwhelming. And then, like, you play it for an hour and you're like, I got nothing done. Like, like I got nothing done in this session. So that's the only thing I'll say, but that's not a knock against the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's just the way I feel about open world games in general. Is I don't play a lot of them because I'm a task oriented person. I'm a checklist guy.
Yeah,
it's just always the way I've been. And so when you give me. When you drop me into something and you don't give me like a list of things to do, like it's just like go wild, go nuts, run around and.
So I will say the cool thing about Tears of the Kingdom is you can play it that way too.
Okay.
Like you can go like I want to go shrine to shrine.
Okay.
Or I want to go do this. It's just. Yeah, it is like, but you also are like, you're almost paralyzed by choice when it comes to that too. Is like, you're like, okay, what do I do now that I have? Anyway,
it's terrifying.
Midwest Game Nerds is what I'm trying to say. I was on there for a little bit, then I had to drop off. But Alex and Gojo, I think Gojo's beat it at this point. So Gojo has a very informed opinion about the game, and he loved it as well. So
excellent.
All right, anything else housekeeping wise from you want to take care of?
Nope, I think I'm good.
Yeah.
I think I'm ready to talk some Malignant.
James Wan's Malignant. You want to do the time machine? We're only going to go back a couple of years.
I feel like normally we wouldn't, but like I feel like we should because it's been so long. So
yeah. Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Malignant, directed by James Wan, written by one Mr. James Wan, Ingrid Bisu, and Akilah Cooper. I'll talk a little bit more about her later, but yeah. Starring Annabelle Wallace, Maddie Hassan, and George Young. Madison is paralyzed by shocking visions of grisly murders, and her torments worsen as she discovers that these waking dreams are in fact terrifying nightmares. This is released in September, I believe, of 2021, or around that time. This was I always think of my head as like a pandemic movie because it was simultaneously released in theaters on HBO Max.
That's right.
I think we'll talk a little bit about that more. This is the second time I have seen it. I watched it when it first came out. I watched it on Max. Which was that either HBO Go or HBO Max. Who really knows at this point what the app was called at the time?
I don't know.
So, Willie, this was your first time watching Malignant.
Yes.
Well, we originally picked this film because it was on Tubi and then it disappeared, but it's out to rent and stuff.
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts first because I believe I have talked about this movie in the past. So, what did you think of Malignant?
Okay, so I had heard from you and a couple other people ahead of watching this, like, give it some time because you got to give it some time and things will really get going. So I was kind of ready for that first chunk of the movie, which is entertaining, but it definitely is. It takes its time, to kind of build to where it's going. Luckily, I like James Wan's direction. I mean, James Wan's one of those guys who he can make anything. Like, he can make anything. And not only can he make any kind of movie, I feel like, they will all have that signature James Wan style to them. Like, I can tell it's a James Wan movie. And this is one of those where I go, that's James Wan. Like, even if I didn't know, I would know. Just from a filmmaking standpoint, it's like, that's his movie. The score ruled too. I want to mention that real quick. I really like the score of this movie. It's like bombastic and awesome and just wonderful. But so I was into it for that first hour because even though it was definitely on the slower end, or on the more definitely the pace ratchets up very quickly when it does. And it does take a while to get there. So I can see why some people might be kind of bored of the first hour or so of the movie. But I kind of dug it because A, I was expecting it, and B, it feels like it's kind of like that first hour or so is James Wan's like Giallo movie. It feels very Giallo to me. Like, you've got the female lead who is caught up in a murder mystery where there's a mysterious killer wearing black gloves killing people off in shadows, and she's got a psychic report with the murders with the killings / the murderer, which is very Giallo. There's some sort of like psychic link or some sort of like a spiritual connection or something. And I was like, oh, it's just James Wan.
There's like a weapon too. There's like a specific weapon they're using.
There's a certain bladed weapon that's like the signature weapon. I was like, this is just James Wan making a Giallo, and I'm okay with this. Like, I'm good for it. And then I don't want to say too much. The movie does something very different, and it's taking inspirations from a lot of different things. One of them continuing to be Giallo, and when we get into spoilers, I'll talk about that. But I mean, he's inspired by everything from Argento to John Wick in this movie, to James Cameron in this. I mean, he's got a lot. It's a beautiful potpourri of like some of my favorite genres of filmmaking, and through the lens of a director who I think is one of the best in the genre. So I had a lot of fun with *Malignant*. It is ridiculous. It is an insane movie.
Yeah,
it's like. It takes a slightly unhinged human being to come up with this.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that. It's not often these days where I see a movie that has this like in just feels absolutely bonkers insane, but isn't force feeding you, look at how bonkers and insane this movie is. Like, it's not like trying to like outdo itself constantly. Like that. No, it's just crazy.
It plays it straight. Yeah, it never winks.
Yeah, exactly. And I really appreciate that. This is not Tusk. You know what I mean? Like, this is not.
Yep.
You know, I'm not dissing Tusk, but Tusk is of its own breed.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
You know what I mean by that. So, I enjoyed it a lot. I had a ton of fun with it, and I always love to see a filmmaker kind of going back to his roots. Especially somebody like James Wan, who has now directed a couple of major studio movies, and really turned a horror franchise into a major studio franchise. So he's kind of done it all, and I'm really happy he's not afraid to go back and dabble in things that got him recognized in the first place. Just need Peter Jackson to get on it.
Right.
Pete, I need you, buddy.
Where is he now?
I don't know.
I haven't seen it. He did like a documentary a couple years ago, like a World War II documentary.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I need a Peter Jackson horror movie again. That's Sam's come back into it, but Pete needs to we need him to rejuvenate through the blood and guts.
Right.
So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. Tons of fun. Definitely worth a watch. But get through enjoy the first hour for what it is.
I would say
not bad. It's
just kind of let it go. Like, let it kind of wash over you.
You've probably heard, if you haven't seen it, you've probably read something about how crazy this movie is, and in that first hour you would go, "Huh? This is the crazy movie." It gets there. It'll get there.
Cool. Okay, so this is my second time watching it.
Yeah.
And I was I think I was very similar to you on a first watch, where I was kind of like, I watched it that first weekend too, because it was, I think I went, this movie at home, it's James Wan, I'm going to watch this. So I did. I was kind of like, okay, I'm into this. Like, this is interesting. The first hour is interesting, like, first hour or so. Yeah. And then it hits you with that reveal, like the reveal, and it reveals like there's the shot, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And I go, what?
What the? Yeah.
Because I actually, I didn't know. And this is kind of like a recent staple of a lot of like popular horror movies these days. It's kind of fun with some of these movies not knowing. Barbarian is the one I'm thinking of specifically.
Yeah.
Like, part of the fun in a lot of these movies, people going like, don't know anything. And it's not just because of like a Sixth Sense style spoiler. It's because it's more fun to be along for the ride a lot of the time.
Yeah. A lot of these newer movies they're designed almost like roller coasters.
Yeah.
And if you spoil the...
And like the thing with Barbarian, I think with this with the Giallo genre too, is like these filmmakers know the tropes of that genre. Like, James Wan knows the beats of a Giallo movie. Yeah. And he knows when to twist it, and like he knows when to turn it on its head. And he knows...
Well, one of the real quick, I'm going to mention it now.
Yeah.
One of the things, one of the staples of Giallo, and I don't think I'm giving too much away about *Malignant* by saying this, is one of the staples of the Giallo is it's a pretty, minus maybe some of that kind of weird psychic-y stuff that goes on in a lot of the Giallo films, that some of the weird, like, borderline supernatural stuff, there tends to be a third act reveal in Giallos that is grotesque and shocking and, like, makes you go, what?
Yep.
And this does that. And I think that reveal that you were discussing earlier with your wonderful pantomiming of what was going on in the reveal is, I think it is definitely another example of him drawing on that genre and the staples of those movies. For sure. 100%.
You touched on it a little bit too. This reminds me a lot of Drag Me to Hell. And that it's a guy returning to his roots. Juan had made, like, his last two movies that he had directed before this, or was Conjuring 2 in between Fast 7 and Aquaman?
I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
Because he did not direct Conjuring 3, correct?
He did not. He produced Conjuring 3.
So I believe you are correct. I do think that Conjuring 2 was post
yes.
Fast and the Furious. Yeah.
I guess where I'm going with that, too, because that is also a bigger budget. Conjuring 2 is like a big series at this point. This feels to me like a little bit more like Drag Me to Hell, where it's a guy who has learned from making big budget movies like that.
Yes.
How to then bring those skills over to something a little bit smaller. And it's weird calling this movie small because it's big at times. But
sure.
this feels like a James Wan blender, like James Wan in a blender. Like, put James Wan in a blender, all his influences, and then all of his movies, because there's stuff that feels like Saw in this movie. There's stuff. There's touches of The Conjuring. There are touches of Death Sentence towards the end. There's all of these things, and like a lot of the third act, without once again spoiling too much, we're gonna need to get into spoilers right after this, so we can just talk about it. Feels like big budget action movie too.
Absolutely.
Yep. And like John Wick is a good comparison, but it feels like, I learned how to shoot this on Fast 7.
Oh,
I learned how to shoot this in Aquaman.
He's applying skills that he picked up doing that big studio movie, or those big studio movies. He's applying those things that he didn't have experience with pre. He's able to apply some of that stuff, and it just increases the bombastic, just crazy third act of this movie.
Yeah, because that's the fun in this, is seeing a guy as skilled and talented as him, especially when it comes to certain things like action. He's a very skilled action director as well.
Yes, he is.
That Death Sentence thing still sticks. I watched Death Sentence not too long ago, and that that scene in the parking garage is still incredible.
That's great.
I liked this just as much the second time. So I was actually more into the first hour, knowing where it was going. I'm a Malignant fan. I'm a big fan of Gabriel. You ready to get into the plot here?
Yes.
We're just going to go through the Wikipedia plot summary. I'm going to stop after every paragraph, and we can talk about something in it if we want. In 1993, Dr. Florence Weaver and her colleagues Victor Fields and John Gregory treat a violent, disturbed patient named Gabriel at Simeon Research Facility, who was able to control electricity and broadcast his thoughts via speakers. After Gabriel kills several staff members, Dr. Weaver determines that he is a lost cause and the cancer must be removed. End of the first paragraph.
Indeed.
This is where I thought we were getting, and we kind of do, James Wan's Shocker.
I know. Yeah. I had the same thought. I was like, is this Shocker? Like, is he just doing Shocker? That's rad.
And there's a part of me that's like, it is kind of like, Shocker is kind of a big, bombastic Wes Craven movie.
Yeah. There's certainly,
Where Shocker is a lot sillier. Where Shocker loses me, though, is the end.
It gets so dumb.
It gets dumb. Like, there's a difference between silly and dumb. And I think Shocker, when he starts, like, transporting through.
Shocker gets dumb.
Yes.
This movie gets silly.
But still, like,
fun.
Cool. Where Shocker does not get
There's nothing cool about the end of Shocker. The last bit of Shocker. It's just not. I'm a Horace Pinker fan, but I have to tell you, it's just... No, I had the same thought. I was like, is this going to be Shocker? I knew a little bit going in about... I didn't know, like, what the exact reveal was. I knew it involved some sort of... twin thing,
like parasitic twin, or
I knew that there was some, so
twin,
I knew that it was tied to that, and I had a feeling, because I knew that going in, I was like, okay, she's more physically involved in the killings than we think, So, yeah.
27 years later, Madison Lake Mitchell, a pregnant woman living in Seattle, returns home to her abusive husband Derek. During an argument about her multiple previous miscarriages, Derek smashes Madison's head against a wall, causing her to bleed to the point of impact. After locking herself in her room, she has a nightmare of a person entering her house their house and killing Derek. To Madison's horror, the killer attacks her shortly after seeing Derek's corpse, knocking her unconscious. So, weirdly enough, I did not pick up on the back of the head thing the first time. Like, it kind of like, so this time, like, I went, oh, that's funny.
Yeah. I feel like when they mentioned that at the end, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, for sure. That makes sense. I don't think I really thought about it beyond them just establishing that he's like an asshole.
I want to talk about this. So we've talked a little bit. James Wan has mentioned the Giallo influences early on, and we talked a little bit about them. Kind of the woman also having to deal with like a past trauma in her life.
Yeah,
that's a trademark. But he's also talked about this being like a movie where he would have found it in the back of the video store as a kid, which is perfect because I don't think it did that well in the theater. But it is kind of like a discovery. And I remember like that first weekend it came out, it was like a lot of people talking online about.
There was a lot of talk about it.
Yeah, a lot of people online.
I remember feeling kind of weirdly I was like kind of sad. I was like, oh, I'm not like
not part of the fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
But yeah, it had that weird release. We might talk about that later. But so his influence is all over this movie. But I don't think there's a lot of King in this movie. The title sequence, the abusive husband, and honestly the two, I mean, that's the dark half.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's funny. You're right. There's definitely some King stuff going on there.
Yeah, there's a lot of King, and King himself, he loved this movie.
Oh, yeah. I bet.
King and the other famous supporter apparently is Nicolas Cage.
Oh, yeah, I can see that too.
Yeah.
He probably wishes he could have played
Gabriel.
Gabriel. Oh, he would have loved it. How do you attach me to the back of the actress then? What do we do with the...
Oh, that's wild.
That's crazy. It's not a good Cage impression.
Neither one was good.
It's the best I can do.
Anything else on the awakening of Gabriel?
No, I mean we set the tone in terms of like where we're at with the gore and stuff right out of the gate. I mean we don't actually see the shitty husband get killed. We see the aftermath. It's pretty gnarly.
Yep.
Yeah, his head's like hanging off basically. Yeah, right out of the gate we're moving now. We do slow down a bit here after this initial go, but
yeah, Madison wakes up in a hospital and is informed by her sister Sydney that her unborn baby did not survive the attack. Oh, that's right. She's been trying to get pregnant, which plays a wild reveal at the end of this movie.
And it's sweet.
I had forgotten about that when I rewatched
insane. As soon as she says it too, I was like, "What?"
After being interviewed by police detective Kikoa Shaw and his partner Regina Moss.
What a name.
Those are Kikoa Shaw? That's a cool name, isn't it? Madison returns home. Very Pacific Northwest name in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kikoa, yeah. Madison reveals to Sydney that she was adopted at 8 years old and has no memory of her prior life. The killer kidnaps a woman running a Seattle underground tour, and Madison continues to bleed at the back of her head. She later experiences another vision in which she helplessly watches Dr. Weaver being brutally bludgeoned by the killer, and this is where he finds his weapon, right?
Yeah.
He fashions her award, her like great psychology or psychiatrist award, best psychiatrist ever award, into a dagger, like a
sick glaive blade thing.
Yeah,
it's awesome. It rules. Yeah, and we at this point we're rolling, and her reveal obviously that she was adopted and all that. I go, okay, we're gonna do the classic kind of slasher thing where like sins of the past are going to like there's something that happened in her past that's directly tied to this killer and what's going on, and I always dig that. That's one of my favorite things about the slasher genre. Even the worst slasher movies, I always love the idea of something that happened many years before coming back to haunt all the people that were involved in whatever happened.
Right.
Yeah.
So a couple other things I wanted to touch on here. This is a Seattle movie.
Yep.
Set in Seattle. We don't have a ton of.
No.
So it was kind of an interesting setting. The Ring, of course, was set there. I believe she works for someone works for the she's a reporter for the newspaper out there. The Changeling was also set in the area. And then there was one more. I believe Fear is set out in Seattle as well.
Yeah.
The greatest Seattle movie of all time.
Aren't
Fear.
the Twilight movies somewhere?
They're out in Washington. I don't necessarily know if they're out in that area. They're out in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the reason I bring that up too is because the thing, I think this going back to Giallo, is more plot oriented. I think the look of this is James Wan though through and through.
Yes.
This looks like Saw, right?
Yeah. There's parts that immediately I was taken back to Saw. There's parts that a lot of the interior, like architecturally and stuff, like the houses, the interiors and stuff, feel very Conjuring or very Insidious. Well, no, the architecture and stuff that feels Conjuring to me. Some of the effects and like when she's essentially being transported to the scene of the crime mentally, and the walls begin to that's very Insidious.
Good call, yeah.
So there's elements of kind of all of that in here, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that like that color palette, the kind of greenish gray, like
some blues in there.
Yeah, it fits Seattle too.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
So I dug that. So like visually, I didn't like visually to me. This feels like early James Wan in a lot of ways, or horror James Wan, I should say.
But it looks like it could fit into any of like the movies. Like it could exist in the same cinematic universe as, Insidious.
Yep.
Because there's a similar vibe and a look to those movies. Yeah.
So during their investigation, Shaw and Moss discover a photo of Madison as a child in Weaver's house and learn that Weaver specialized in reconstructive surgery. Madison and Sidney approach the police officer after the former has a vision of the killer murdering Dr. Fields. The killer then calls Madison, revealing himself as Gabriel. Madison and Sidney visit their mother and learn that Gabriel was an imaginary friend Madison spoke with during her childhood, but maybe also someone she knew before her adoption. Shaw later finds a link between the doctors and Madison hidden on Dr. Weaver's record journals, leading him to the discovery of the murder of Dr. Gregory. Oh, is he the bed murder? Is Dr.
No, this is the bathtub one.
Who gets the face caved in?
One of the other guys.
Okay.
I don't know. I could be mixing them up. There's one guy.
Either way, the face cave in is really good.
It's super gross. Yeah. Yep. There's lots of face smashing in this movie.
Absolutely.
Which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah. I like the unraveling of the mystery. It continues to kind of, you're not really sure what the outcome is going to be. It was fun. The imaginary friend thing is always fun.
Do you have an imaginary friend growing up?
No,
I don't know if that's too personal.
I could ask my parents. Maybe they would
recall.
Remember. I used to make up characters like that I draw pictures of and stuff, but it wasn't.
You weren't like
wasn't talking to them.
Like I think it's like a thing kids do. Like I don't recall ever doing it either.
Well, it's weird. Okay, so it's kind of weird because Josie literally today I finished Malignant. We go out to Trader Joe's to get some stuff. And we're at Trader Joe's and Josie's talking about her friend Slammer.
Okay.
Slammer is my friend, but sometimes he gets mad and he slams me in the face.
Okay.
What?
She did not watch Malignant with you, right?
No. That would explain the behavior earlier when she was having a rough go of it. But maybe Slammer's in there somewhere. I don't know.
Okay. Check the back of the head.
Yeah.
Don't let her bump her head in the store.
No way.
Yeah, so it's like a normal kid
I don't
thing.
think it's horrifying.
Well, it's not a normal kid thing to have like a murderous imaginary friend.
No. But if Josie actually starts having an imaginary friend that gets brought up frequently, I'm gonna get uncomfortable. I mean, I won't tell her that.
Fair enough.
But internally, I'm gonna be locking my bedroom door at night.
I've seen Malignant.
I know what's up. I get it.
Here's where I this is where I started to got a little impatient on the second watch, was during the investigation. But also, this is a nice call. I've been watching a lot of Argento movies, so this is not he said it in interviews. This is more like a tribute to Tenebra, or not Suspiria, but that kind of stuff. Where the investigative part of those movies, those Argento movies especially too, it gets a little.
Oh, for sure.
It's not the most engaging part of the movies.
Yeah. There's some of that in Inferno, too, isn't there?
Yeah, Inferno. Yeah, that was another one. Yep. So, but those movies, and I think this movie, Malignant, does a great job of capturing that vibe, which is, those movies aren't necessarily about, the nuts and bolts of the plot. It's about moments, these big moments.
Yes.
The stuff that sticks with you.
Yep.
The rats.
Yeah, he's kind of getting you to the next... Yeah.
To the next, he's basically just using this as a way to get to the next.
You gotta have a calm down before you.
Grand set piece that is, gonna blow your mind.
Absolutely.
So that's bring it up there. That's the part where this is around the part where I go, okay.
Yeah, I agree. No, this is the same for me. I wasn't not enjoying it, but I hit that point where I was like, okay, this is a mystery and we're trying to figure it out, but eventually let's solve the mystery for sure. Let's get where we're going.
The detectives enlist a psychiatric hypnotherapist to unlock Madison's memories. Madison recalls that her birth name is Emily May and that Gabriel almost led her to kill Sydney in the womb. Now we're getting to the goods.
Yeah, this is where things start to... Yeah.
Yep. After Sydney was born, Madison forgot about Gabriel. The kidnapped woman escapes and falls from the attic of Madison's home, revealing that Gabriel was secretly living there. Believing Madison to be the culprit behind the murders, the police arrest her while the woman, revealed to be Madison's biological mother, Serena May, is taken to a nearby hospital.
Yeah. Love the reveal that that's her mom. I did not actually expect that. Because I was honestly, when she kidnapped that lady towards the beginning, I didn't recognize the lady, but I'm like, oh, it must have been somebody in the opening scene, like one of the orderlies or something. I just assumed it was. So, like, I never questioned, like, wait, who is this person and why are they being captured? And so when the reveal happened, I was like, oh, shit, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Now, I want to stop here, too. I want to ask you, so his partner is, I forgot her name. Is it the co-writer of this movie? I'm blanking. Is it Ingrid Bisu?
Yes, and then there's another writer as well. That
Akilah Cooper.
Yes, and I believe she gets the writing credit. Story by is the three of them.
So I think the story behind it is his partner, wife, came to him, was Ingrid Bisu. She came to him with the idea. She had been reading about kind of the idea of the twin.
Yeah.
And it's like an actual medical thing. And then they just kind of brainstorm from there.
What if?
Yeah. And then Akilah Cooper came into the process. And she is like a writer.
Yeah.
As well. She's written a couple things. But it's a crazy concept. Akilah Cooper, real quick. I want to talk about her real quick.
Yeah.
Because I think she's kind of a cool person to watch right now. She's written for a couple TV shows. I kind of know her from, she wrote on Luke Cage. She's written on American Horror Story. She also wrote on the latest season of, the first season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Cool.
And she did a fairy tale episode that I thought was a really cool idea, but like, I talked a little bit about it. It's one of those episodes that works better if you get to spend more time with the characters, like they're in the streaming area. You only get 10 episodes now. It seems like, so it feels like something that like would have worked better for me. But it was such a cool, like,
if it was like a network show.
Yeah, like all of the people on it's a classic Star Trek thing where like all of the people get turned into like they live out a fairy tale on the Enterprise, and it's like a classic kind of goofy Star Trek episode.
Yeah,
and there's some great character stuff in there, but like the problem is I don't necessarily think it's great. I didn't pick up on it because we're in season 1 of the show and like it doesn't hit.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to bring her up too. Here's her film credits right now. So Malignant, of course, Hellfest. This is the movie, like the theme park movie that I believe starred Tony Todd.
Oh.
This was
Yeah.
I watched this when it came out. It's a fun movie, but it felt like there were too many cooks in the kitchen almost. Like it kind of felt like it had been like maybe the original script was really cool and then it got
messed with.
It's entertaining. It's very much trying to be a new age slasher and introduce kind of like a cool slasher villain. It just never quite gets there. But she's followed that up with Malignant. She's writing The Nun too, and she also wrote another movie that's kind of become like a phenomenon as well, which is Megan.
Oh, sure.
She wrote Megan. Cool. I don't think she directed that either way. So she's kind of stayed in the
she's creating all sorts of cool horror characters.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to bring up.
She's got Gabriel, she's got Megan.
Because I remember when this came out a couple years ago, there was like, I don't want to say it was a phenomenon, but like there were like some fun meme moments of Gabriel online and kind of like here's Gabriel at the Met Gala. That's what I remember around the time. But like there was like he became kind of a thing, and like we've gotten that quite a bit the last few years, right?
Yeah, there's been a couple. I remember Megan was huge. There was, I think it kind of started with the Bill Skarsgård Pennywise thing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that kind of brought people back to like the loving, like people realizing like, oh, I kind of miss having horror icons.
Yeah.
And then I think The Nun helped.
The Nun is a horror icon.
Yep.
I think, we talked about Megan. You know what? Like I'm talking smaller scale
Brahms.
too. Brahms, exactly where I was going. I think the big one right now, and we're going to talk about him a little next week, is Art the Clown from Terrifier. Yeah. I think he's become kind of like a big horror, new age horror icon.
Absolutely.
So I think like looking back at this time in a few years, we're going to look back and go like, we got some cool, like we had the Halloween movies and we got the Scream Like, so we got the horror icons there, but we also got some cool like new ones,
original stuff. Yeah.
Original stuff, and I just think like she's created a couple of them, and I think
that's neat.
And honestly, I think that's what she was going for with Hellfest as well.
And it just didn't.
It didn't
work out
take
that way.
out.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, I forgot about the Babadook's a little older now, but
yeah, that's a weird one.
Yeah.
That's a weird one. Yeah. I don't know.
All right, so we'll get into the end of the movie here. Sydney visits the now abandoned Simeon Hospital where Emily was treated and finds that Gabriel is Emily's parasitic twin brother who appeared as a half-formed child facing out of Emily's back.
The reveals were so sweet.
This is the reveal we were talking. Yeah, I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, when it's like,
this is a great moment.
What was your reaction? Were you just like, what?
I laughed.
Yeah.
Like I laughed out loud.
It's insane.
Because like I kind of had an idea of where it might be going, but like I didn't like the visual.
You can't possibly expect that.
Because don't they show it through a camera? Like it's
so she's like being interviewed like on like a camera, and then the camera pans around to the side, and all of a sudden you see the arms like.
It like it's so audacious you can't help but laugh.
It's insane.
Weaver operated on Emily and was able to remove Gabriel's body except for the brain, which he seals inside Emily's cranium. So they're essentially sharing like a headspace.
Yes.
And he's out doing his thing while
he's rebuilding his strength.
I think we're getting... Okay. He remained dormant until Derek hit her head against the wall. Gabriel actually operates Madison's body backwards when he takes control.
It's so sweet.
Explaining his unnatural movements and the upside-down handprints at the crime scene. I forgot about that aspect.
So did I.
What a cool aspect, which is the upside-down.
That's right.
So that's played by... it's Marina Mazepa, I believe.
Yeah. She's like a contortionist and a dancer.
Yeah.
She played Lisa Trevor in the Resident Evil, the newer one.
Oh.
She's really good as Lisa. I mean, Lisa's pretty... not used very much in that movie, but
that's a cool piece of
she plays Lisa. Yeah,
trivia. I know she's got. It's a very like they didn't use CGI. It's like her.
No,
movements.
she can move. Yeah, she's got double joint and stuff going on. You know that kind of super flexible and whatnot. Yeah, pretty cool.
So, okay, yeah, I don't think we do cover the... we're getting to the part we're talking about. So, provoked by fellow inmates in the lockup, Gabriel bursts out of Madison's skull and takes control of her body once more, slaughtering the inmates and almost the entire precinct staff
before
does. Going to the hospital where Serena is recovering for her captivity. And the first time I watched this movie, this is where I went, oh my God, I'm in love.
Oh, yeah.
This is the scene that we've been building to
It's insane. It's insane.
Because, like, it is... violent. Zoe Bell is in it too.
Yeah. I love Zoe Bell.
Yes.
She was on Lost. She was in the last season of Lost. I watched.
Yeah. She comes in halfway through, right?
Yeah, super briefly.
That's right.
But yeah, what a.
I think
this is where the John Wick / the Matrix / that's like martial arts stuff comes into play. You get a lot of that in this scene. Also, certainly, I feel like whether it's intentional or not, it reminds me of the Terminator. Like kind of the big slaughter in the police station. It's kind of that classic Terminator scene from the first movie.
Yep.
This reminds me a lot of that. Just people getting launched left, right, front, and center. I mean, the reveal is where you go. That reveal is like the shock of like, oh my God. And then like moments later, this happens, and you're just like, this is absolutely insane.
It's bonkers. Like this is the part like where people, like you said, when you're telling people, like the word of mouth that got out is referring to this scene in particular, right?
Yes.
Or at least this stretch of the movie where we get the reveal of the head and then right into the prison scene.
When Gabriel really steps up, that's what people are talking about.
Okay, where was I?
Sydney and Shaw intercept,
but are attacked by Gabriel. Sydney informs Madison that Gabriel caused her miscarriages because he was feeding on her fetuses to gain strength. Oh my God, this was like a cherry on the top reveal.
It was already good enough, and then this fucked up little tidbit pops up
where it's revealed that Gabriel is eating fetuses
so he can rebuild.
Like it's like a. Because I had completely forgot about the whole, like, she had been trying to have a child.
Oh, me too.
Until the end, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
It's nuts.
I mean, not like perfect sense, but like perfect sense
in the world of the movie.
In the world of Malignant, yeah. As Gabriel attempts to kill Sydney for replacing him in Madison's life, Madison wakes up and takes back control of her body. In a black mindscape, she subconsciously locks an enraged Gabriel behind bars and says she will be ready after he promises to escape one day. With his influence gone, Gabriel sinks back inside her head. That part is also very insidious too.
Yes.
Like when they're in like the other realm or whatever.
Absolutely. 100%.
You want to knock this out and then we can wrap up?
Sure.
Yeah. So back in the hospital, Madison lifts a hospital bed, pinning Sydney, and remarks that even though they are not related by blood, she will always love her as a sister. Serena looks on happily while the electric humming that accompanied Gabriel attacks can be heard faintly. There's a shot at the end where it lingers on the light that goes on forever.
You can hear it whirring.
Yes.
Out of the light bulb. Yeah.
I will say this time around,
I was hoping for a Gabriel will return at the end of the credits.
Yeah, I want to talk about like where we go, but like this time around, I just want to bring this. I'm glad you brought up the score because this time around I was not able to listen as well because I have to have the volume low when I'm watching right now. But the score is very cool, and like the sound design is very cool, and like the whirring at the end, like it sticks on it forever.
Yeah, it's sweet.
So that's Malignant.
Yeah,
now,
yeah, good
it's
stuff.
very open ended at the end when it comes to Gabriel. Like you can continue it on.
I mean, she's gonna there's no possible way she's getting out of killing all these people, right?
You would think not.
Like they know that she had the twin and all that stuff, but like in a court of law, like what do we do?
She's gonna have to like go into hiding, right?
Something.
That would be where a sequel.
Oh, Gabriel in Paradise.
Remember the It's Alive movie where they're like on the
Island of the Alive. Yeah,
Island of the Alive.
We should do that, but with Gabriel.
With Gabriel.
I was hoping for like a
And she's like, "Well, Gabriel, like you can have all of the we can hunt on this island, but you like she goes to
get your kicks on the island,
a lowly populated island where he maybe can kill less." It was like her plan.
Yeah, that would be.
And then Gabriel like hijacks a boat or something.
I was hoping that James Wan would just like make another couple movies about like different people that had like superpowers.
Yeah.
Based around weird like parasitic twins, and we get some sort of like team up.
Like a team up thing?
Yeah, like Gabriel unites his other, because she wasn't the only patient at that research center.
No, maybe they're all like
maybe there's a pyrokinetic one that grew out of somebody's hip.
Yeah.
Or like this is cool. You could do like Nightbreed.
Yeah,
All sorts of crazy cool stuff going on. Let's go. Do it.
I don't think we're getting a sequel, unfortunately. So I want to touch. This will be our time machine segment because I want to go back and just kind of touch on, because you and I were talking about this yesterday in a conversation completely separate, and I don't want to give away because we were talking about a very spoilery thing. But we were talking about a little bit about he's directing Aquaman, the second Aquaman movie.
Yeah.
And we were talking a little bit about how weird it is that movie is even coming out at all. With everything going on with like James Gunn and the DC.
With them kind of ending that era.
Yeah,
DC
because
movies,
it's like James Gunn is obviously going to take things in a different direction. And maybe Aquaman will play a part. Jason Momoa's Aquaman, maybe not. I don't know. But we talked about how weird it is. And then I started to think about the reasons why it might even be getting a theatrical release is because I'm trying to transport back to HBO, Warner Brothers had the strategy of day and date release during the pandemic.
Oh yeah, they released some big. I mean, Godzilla vs. Kong, Mortal Kombat,
yes,
Matrix,
the third Conjuring movie.
Yeah,
this movie.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think. Now, looking back at it, I go, man, they really screwed James Wan here.
Oh yeah.
When it came to this, because he had 3 movies there that we named off. That were a part of this release strategy. And I say screwed, I just mean, well, like Hollywood's a business. We all know this. But like
the timing was not great for James Wan.
Because he produced Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
He produced The Conjuring 3, and he directed this one. And I think they all, like, you can look at, there's a reason they're not doing it anymore. And I think some of it is because the pandemic obviously has gone a different route, but like, they're not doing this release date strategy. They're doing like a 45-day thing.
I think a lot of the results of that experiment, I think, have led directly into the insane restructuring of Warner
Brothers. Because I think it was a failure. Yeah. I think looking back at it, like they cost themselves money when it comes to this, and it happened with the DC. So I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, you know what? If I'm James Wan, I'm like, no, you're going to release this movie that I put like a year into. I put all this work into this outcome. You're going to release it in theaters so I can recoup, like, because I'm sure I have something in my contract.
Sure.
And guess what? You're going to put my Insidious movie. I think that it's Warner Brothers as well. That's going to go to theaters as well. Yeah. Like, we're not doing this anymore because Mortal Kombat and The Conjuring, I think, are getting sequels, right? Mortal Kombat is
getting a sequel, 100%. Yes.
The thing with this movie is, I think this movie was hurt by it as well. I know The Conjuring and Mortal Kombat.
Kong, Godzilla versus
definitely
that's getting a sequel too.
Yeah, so they're still continuing those franchises. This movie, I'm curious what you think. Do you think this would have been a bigger hit if it were just? Do you think maybe some word of mouth would have picked up for it? Because I could see it being something similar to Barbarian, because Barbarian kind of picked up with word of mouth, right?
I think so. Yeah, I do think. I don't necessarily. I won't say for sure that it would warrant a sequel based on its performance. Regardless, it does feel like a one-off to me, and I think that's totally fine. It's actually refreshing, but I think it would have done better had it been released during a time when people were going to theaters. Because I do think it's the type of movie that, like, it might not be the case anymore, but back in 2020, it was a little bit more of a sell for somebody to, like, sign up for a streaming service to watch a movie than to go buy a movie ticket and go see a movie. Like,
right.
Nowadays, I feel like because of what we went through those couple of years there, like, now I think people are almost more willing to, like, sign up for a streaming service to get a movie within the first couple months of release than to go to it's weird. It's a weird landscape. I also think that release window pushing it back to 45 days has actually helped a lot
in a lot of ways too. Like, I think it's gone back, it's just reverted back to what it was before, but also
I think we're good.
I think we found a nice balance too. Like, these like big corporations can put their movie on their streaming service.
I think we're good, because I like a perfect example, the Ant-Man movie, the last Ant-Man movie. I like the Marvel stuff. I'm very picky and choosy about what I see in theaters at this point. I only see a half dozen movies a year in theaters at this point.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm gonna skip Ant-Man and Wasp in the theater. I'm good. Like, nothing about it made me feel like I had to go see it.
Yep.
And but it's cool because, like,
but you still
60 days later or whatever, or 45 days later, like, it's on Disney Plus. I'm good to go. I want to see it, but I didn't want to, like, set up a babysitter and, like, I didn't want to do all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and the thing nowadays is too, like, that 45, like, it used to be longer in between because of you have to put it on physical media, VHS, DVD, and that would take a little bit more time. You just drop it on streaming. Yeah. Most in the movie going public is different now. Most of your money is made in that first weekend or two.
Yeah.
Especially with these big theatrical stuff, because the people that are going to go see it are going to see it in that first month.
And occasionally a movie has legs. It's rare, but it's usually the movies that had that word of mouth.
That's what almost, like, makes me think maybe
this could have lingered.
This could have been a word of mouth hit, like we've seen.
It could have.
But the other thing too was, like, Megan had a lot of buzz going into it.
It was promoted like crazy. And, like, the people like, it was big on, like, TikTok and stuff. Yeah. Like, all the Megan. Smile did pretty good too.
I don't know if this would have. Yeah, Smile had great promotion. Yeah. I don't think this movie. It's tough to promote this movie because you can't give away.
What are you promoting?
You can't give away the Gabriel stuff in the
No.
You have to go in kind of blind. That's what's tough about this movie. It feels like it feels like a video store discovery movie where people discover it later on in video and they go, "Oh, I love this." That's kind of where I'm at with it too.
For sure.
I'm with you. I don't think this is the type of a movie that was ever going to make enough to get a sequel.
No, I think it could have done better than it probably did. But
right.
I mean, once again, it's the circumstance of the times too. So, it can't be helped. But
very cool.
Awesome.
Any of your final thoughts on Malignant?
It's fun. Watch it if you haven't. I'm glad I did.
Absolutely.
I'm excited for Terrifier 1 and 2. I did not like Terrifier the first time I saw. I mean, I laughed at it a lot, and I went, "Oh God." But
I think you're gonna do that a lot too, as well.
I didn't like it. I hope that maybe my daughter's burgeoning friendship with Art the Clown maybe will make me see it in a new light.
And you were the one that, like, you wanted to watch it, like, you want to revisit.
Yeah,
you want to revisit this.
Yeah, and I might find the results are the same. I don't know. You have to open yourself up to these things sometimes.
I like the first Terrifier. I loved Terrifier 2. It was my favorite movie last year, like, favorite horror movie last year. I just loved it.
Yeah.
But it is, I can see you. I'm interested because I can see you watching and go, like, this is a lot.
I want to like the Terrifier movies.
Okay.
I want to.
I'm going to see if we can.
This is going to be the final, I think, shot it gets. I haven't given it that many shots, but I think if I don't like it this time, odds are probably just not a fan. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Hey.
I'm not disparaging people who like the Terrifier movies. It's all good.
Some things aren't for everybody, and that's okay.
And I'm sure Terrifier is not for a lot of people. So,
but it's also for a lot of, like, you know what I mean?
It sure is.
Something like this is the thing. Like, it's a pet peeve of mine with a lot of criticism in general. You know what? Some things aren't for you, and it's okay.
Oh God, don't get me started on that. Yeah. If I hear one more nerd on the internet raging about the Ninja Turtles movie that's coming out, I'm gonna lose it.
Kind of what I was talking
about.
There
are 40,000 different versions of that. Pick a different one.
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is a children's property more than anything at this point.
Yeah.
The kids want to see it.
Yep. I'm with you.
Seth Rogen. Yeah. Well, then wait another 5 years and it'll be a different thing. Psychopaths.
I'm glad we got check out our Tiny Terror next week
Get off my lawn.
for more crankiness from us. We get very cranky in our personal lives as well. But it's a fun Tiny Terror. We catch up on the last 3 weeks. You can patreon.com/MidwestPodNet, horrormovieyearbook@gmail.com. Email us, tweet at us. We'll get back to it. And we will see you next time. Take care and be safe, everybody.